Okay, so thank you all for having me come and join you today. I'm really excited about sharing what I do. I'm not sure how long I've got to talk because I can talk a lot. So if I have
an hour,
I'll have got okay, awesome. I will try and keep it so that there's a lot of information about what I do, but also I have some tips or tools that I like to also impart for people to take away, because they are amazing to have with whatever modality of healing you're doing or whatever medical method you're working with. It doesn't matter. You can still have a toolkit of things that you can do yourself at home. Now, the beauty is, having listened to everybody, and it sounds like people are already a little bit more open to alternative methods, or at least interested to hear about it. So that makes my talk a little bit easier, and hopefully it'll make more sense. Meditation is the key to a lot of healing, and I'm sure you've probably heard that throughout your own journeys. With meditation, when we access the theta state, so there's several different states. Now, the theta state is the deepest state of accessing our subconscious, and that's where a lot of the healing and the understanding and the insights and the information can come from. So, for instance, with the QHHT or the quantum healing hypnosis work that I do, when we're working together, yes, we start off talking for however many hours we need to so that I can get an understanding of the life story, but I'm also piecing together patterns, and I'm seeing things that will come up that we can talk about more and in depth. But your subconscious is actually already preparing itself so that by the time we get to the hypnosis part, and I take you into a lovely gentle induction into your regression. So it is regression work. So we're either going to somewhere in this lifetime. Now, this might be a little bit out there for some people, but we can go to other areas and we're just open to the journey. So that's the subconscious that we tap into. And that's the most powerful part of you that knows you, not just the small you. I say it's the big you that knows everything about you. And so the theta state allows us to access that part of ourselves, because we need to be in a quiet state to access it. So we gently go in, access the theta, and then the subconscious has the opportunity to come forward, and we can either access healing, which is generally what happens in the hypnosis. We access healing, but we also get to ask questions that, for instance, when Caro came in, she had questions to ask about her, maybe it's about her illness, about her life, about direction, whatever you need to know, your purpose. You can ask those questions, and the bigger part of you answers. Okay, so the bigger part of you knows you the best, and in the state of theta, it's able to come forward. Now, those people that have a little bit what I call bossy conscious minds, or bossy, more controlling minds, sometimes want to negate that information or block it. So that's normal, and that can happen with some people who are not quite open yet, and that's why the meditation really helps with that allowing of the subconscious to come forward. But the subconscious has the information for you, that knows you the best, and it can give you the best information for you. So if you go to a practitioner, any healing practitioner, generally it's the healing practitioner that's doing the work. With the quantum healing, the person is doing their own work, but I'm guiding that along. So I'm asking the questions on behalf of Caro, for instance, and as she answers, then I ask more. So part of my role is to continually ask more expansive questions to get deeper. As we get deeper, we can then look at where origins, so the origin of where, for instance, the issue or the trouble or the problem that you're having in this lifetime, whether that's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever that is, even relationship stuff, you can find the origin of that and why it's now carried into the present. Once you find the origin of it, you can release it and heal it right there, and of course it then affects the present. So we're kind of working present, past, future, all in one time frame. So it can become a little bit convoluted, and your mind can get a little bit sort of pretzel bent, but if you just kind of just accept that this is there's a lot going on that we don't actually know about, even though that we're present here. There's so many parts of us in other levels or other layers that interact to help us in this lifetime. So if we can access that information, then it helps you move forward or to heal.
Can I just ask?
Yes, please.
Have we forgotten it, or are we just not aware of it?
It's both.
Okay.
It's both. So we all have an innate ability to access this information. So it's not a big secret. It's actually there for everybody. And I was going to do a couple of little, practices today just to show you how to access that through using theta via the meditation. So we all have that ability. When I said before that some people have the ability to go in deeper, others don't because their conscious minds are a little bit more controlling, or they're more left brain oriented, problem solvers, they just want to know, and they'll see something and they'll question it and want to analyse it, whereas I always say just, don't analyse, we're not analysing, we're not assessing, we don't need that to explain itself, we just accept what it is and then we keep working forward.
Yeah.
So that is part of us.
Okay.
The theta state is like practice. It's meditation, but it's practicing and becoming familiar with the things that we're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting that are in the visualisation state. So the power of visualisation in the theta state is where this other realm enters in from the subconscious. So we can all do that. It's not challenging, it's just learning how to do it. It's a muscle.
Can I just clarify something?
Yes.
You talk about meditation, you talk about hypnosis.
Yes.
So are there two parts to what you do? There's a meditation and there's hypnosis?
No, so the meditation, what I was trying to explain is the meditation, when you use meditation, you are accessing a part of yourself, which is the subconscious. When we go into hypnosis, we're also accessing the subconscious, but we can get in deeper. So most people stay in meditation in the alpha state. With the hypnosis, we can go deeper into the theta state. However, but you can do it in meditation as well if you practice. You can access theta, which is what I do and have been doing for about 20 years.
So I've experienced clinical hypnosis over the years and never been able to access or fall into a hypnotic space.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have heard when I've listened to research, done by neurologists and that, there are some people who cannot get into a hypnotic state.
Correct.
So I've assumed I'm one of those people. So have you found that?
I would say in my experience it's about 5% who cannot go or cannot allow themselves to even enter an alpha state or visualise, because it's all part and parcel together, to go in any deeper. Now the other part to that is some people expect that they're going to be knocked out completely and have no awareness. That's also the other extreme, which is rare, and it's called somnambulists. There are very few somnambulists that exist. I have worked with some of them, but the majority pretty much sit on that. I'm aware, but there's also an awareness of something else, but I can sense that I'm still here. I guess maybe you can explain your experience of how that felt. So you're not under, as in knocked out, you're not unconscious.
Yeah, no, I would never have expected that.
Yes, so some people actually do, and they expect that they're going to be totally unconscious, and I say, well, we're not working with the unconscious, we're working with the subconscious, which just has to have an allowance to come forward. That's all. So there's still possibility for you though.
So that could be where you say, I don't mean this, but the bossy mind.
The bossy mind, yeah.
I know.
So
she's my little sister. I can say it to her. I was just trying to put it in context.
Yes. So I can talk directly to the bossy mind, and I ask it to gently come to the side. It's like talking to another being, and I say, if the conscious mind can go to the side, we can observe together, and let's allow the subconscious to come through, give it, give it a chance to surface. So it's not that you don't have a subconscious, everyone does. It's just that's the part that blocks. Fear also will block. So if someone's afraid of what they're going to experience, or maybe they're afraid of the process because it's new for them, or maybe they're afraid they're going to go to a place in their life that they were scared of. That's going to block it, so they won't allow themselves to go in.
I was just going to say fear of what you might find out
Correct.
that you don't want to know.
Correct, and generally most of the information, 99% of it, is really great information.
Yeah.
It's not in a harmful way, it's not in a, even if it's something that might be a bit confronting and you may have an emotional reaction to it, which is part of it, but remember I'm there with you, so I'm guiding and I'm also talking you through that, and you can also watch it as an observer, so you don't have to actually have the experience as if you were there on the day. So we're looking through that. But your subconscious chooses where it wants to go. So I don't direct. That's clinical hypnosis may direct and take you to a time in your life to understand and resolve it. With QHHT, your subconscious will direct where it wants to go to. So we're gently moving along, and then something will start to unfold, and we start to develop that by me asking questions. And then you're seeing or experiencing whatever you need to, that actually will make sense and is referred to what's happening in this lifetime now. Is that? Yeah, good, good, yes.
So prior to the hypnosis itself,
Yeah.
you're in a session with the client where you're following through, finding out what you can,
Yeah.
and that is your starting point for your questions as to what you feel is relevant, what they need to work on.
What that does for me is it helps me understand what this person wants to find out.
Right.
So when we get to their list of questions, which is part of the homework, you
Okay.
come in with a list of questions. So when I'm reading these questions, like if you just came to me and gave me a list of questions, I can only read the questions as they are on the paper.
Right.
When I know you, I can go, oh, that's got to do with that. So let me ask about this, this, this and this to get more of an expansive
Right.
picture. So me understanding you in that preview or interview stage allows me to ask better questions and get deeper in
Right.
to understand why you're asking the question, what you need to get out of it so that you can heal. So there is a little bit of skill, I guess, in being able to ask the questions correctly and keep the stories moving. And that all comes from the beginning.
Right.
So I listen very, very, very intently. Yeah. So when we get to the hypnosis, then that part is, it's around 2 hours, and it's a very gentle process. And as I said, the subconscious will take you to where you need to go. And as I said, this is the bendy bit, which if it needs to be in a past life, it'll go there, reveal something there. And then at the end, when we ask, well, why was that important to see or experience, your subconscious will say, because that relates to this now. And by seeing that, you can make sense. So if it carried over from a past in this life or another one, then you can now make sense of it, and then you can release that and finish with it.
So that's the patterns you're looking for
Yeah.
to identify.
Yeah, but as I said, the subconscious finds them already. So the subconscious is already doing the work before we get together and before I even get you into the hypnosis stage. So we're building a relationship in the day before you even get to the hypnosis. So by the time we do that.
Is that like that intergenerational trauma?
Yes, it can be that too, yeah. So if anything is carried over genetically or trauma or stories, whatever that is, then that can also be identified and cleared. So obviously everybody's different. They'll all come in with different questions. We'll find information in very different areas, and it will all make complete sense at the end of it all as to why it's happening and why it's present. And that includes physical illness as well. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Go. I love it. No, please. Please ask.
Get on.
Please ask questions. Yeah, it's very important.
So if these are patterns,
Mm-hmm.
whether genetic, past
Mhm.
life,
Yeah, or this life.
generational
Yeah,
trauma,
yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
how do you stop and change it? How do you change?
So in the session,
What
that's
is-
what we're doing. So in the session, by identifying it, right, then I'm asking it to be finalised or healed, or I'm asking, is it finished now, or what can we do to finish it, or what can Caro do to finish it, or can we finish that here today and heal this? Generally, that's what we do on the day, in the room. We do the healing right there and then, whether that's forgiveness work, whether that's self-love work, whether that's just releasing it, whether it's energy. So energy is a huge part of this. Most people will feel some sort of energy shift or an energy experience. It can come in this form of heat, it can be cool, it can be body movement. It's a very visceral experience for many people, and that energy that's coming through is actually doing the work, if you want to call it that. So.
But the answers still come from your subconscious.
Correct, yeah. So you're telling yourself, that's why when people say, oh, I don't know about it, I go, well, you've told yourself what to do, so listen to yourself. It's much better than somebody else telling you, because you can question that or argue, and I say you argue with yourself because you told yourself that. So it's taking ownership and responsibility, but you told yourself the most important message, or gave yourself the most important information or the direction, and then it's up to you when you're in your life going forward, if you want to implement that, if you want to change that, whatever you do. It's on the recording so you can listen to it, which is also really, really helpful. So there's a lot, we're working on so many layers and levels in the quantum healing. I like to say we're really working, if you believe in a universe or a God or a source or some greater being, we really are working directly with that energy in the room or for that day. So it's not me doing the work, it's really that's being channeled into the person who's come for the day.
I think one of the things that came through on a little bit of the background homework that I'd done before I'd seen you was to kind of like learn to have a little bit of faith that when you're in that session, that the first thing that comes to your mind or what have you is the right thing.
Correct.
Without kind of like letting your I don't know, your conscious
mind,
brain like starting to, like think about it or overthink it or question it too much. And I was actually quite surprised, like in the session that we had, like in the questions or what have you that I'd, ask myself, the very first thing that like popped out, and I thought, later it's just like, where the hang did that come from? I had no idea that was actually in there, like ready to sort of come out sort of thing. So I didn't even have time to question it. It was just like, okay, just let the first thing, come out, and it was actually right.
It's very profound. Like some things come out that are so profound that it's almost not you, but it is you. So in your waking state, you go, well, I would never have thought of that, or that's just so huge, or that's amazing, and it's you telling yourself, but it's in a profound way. And sometimes the person will also go, oh yeah, I knew that all along, and the subconscious will actually say, she knows this, she just doesn't listen, so the subconscious actually interacts as well. So it's like we're having a dialogue, and that subconscious is talking in the third person about the client. So it's very fascinating to listen to a session, recording session, because it usually will flick into
this is I've actually looked at shamanic healing.
Yeah.
And the reason I've looked at that is I'm very aware that I have a controlling mind. I analyse everything, I research and all the rest of it.
So I was right.
No, it doesn't mean she's bossy.
So I've actually
No,
looked
that
at...
doesn't mean that at all.
I'll go, you talk, sit down.
So I've actually looked at shamanic retreats using hallucinogenic Peruvian medication
ayahuasca,
to actually loosen my mind.
Correct.
So that I can access my subconscious.
Yes.
My fear of that is I don't know how safe that space is.
Yes.
So this kind of approach feels a lot safer to me.
So many people will do that first because they think that they will need the external assistance to experience accessing the subconscious when you don't actually need it, but for some people it is the only way that they can. However, with some people it's just a matter of trying and gently going through, and if it doesn't work the first time, you come back the second time, usually you'll go in straight away anyway, because we've already built the trust. Your subconscious is already comfortable with me. Your conscious mind is going, you know what, we've done this before, I'm okay, let's try this. So So that generally is what will happen. You'll have one session. If it's tough and you're getting frustrated, then I'll say, let's just put it to the side. We know where you're at. Come back in about a month, practice your meditation. This is why the meditation is really important, because it accesses the subconscious, tells the conscious mind to be quiet. So then you come back in, say in a month's time. I've had a person come back a year later and go straight in and access almost instantly what she needed. So she didn't even get through the induction, she was already under. So that is the potential for you where you're at. And when you're talking about safe space with that stuff, that does concern me also, because I have seen people go to these things, have the experience, it's been great, but there's no aftercare. And the aftercare really is important. If you've had a very traumatic experience, and generally with other people too, so it's not just you one-on-one, there's a group of people, you're having a traumatic experience, and nobody's there to gently hold space for you, and especially after for 2 days, you could still be having ramifications from that trauma that's been released. So in this case, at least you know I'm right there, we're working together. If there is an emotional release, we're working through that. So there is a lot of safety, and that's why we never do it online either. It's always one-on-one in the room. Yeah.
So Cara, when you said and it felt right when it came out, you know how we've had, I can't remember who it was that came and we did these things and we could feel where everything was coming from. So where do we trust what?
Somatic.
Sorry?
Was it the somatic?
Yes, it was.
Somatic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is that how you knew it was right when you said it was right? It just felt right?
I guess like it had actually popped out, like I'd actually like verbally said whatever it was before I'd even kind of like had a chance to think about it. So like it was almost like as soon as whatever question, you know, as we were going through the process, it was like an automatic thing. It just automatically came out before I'd even had a chance to, you know, really think too much about it or analyse what the answer was. And I think as well my voice actually changed a little bit. It was in a slightly different tone than what I normally speak in.
And that's common.
And it was more kind of, I guess, like monotone-ish or something like that. And I was quite emotional at the time as well. I knew that I had tears. And it just felt like I was, you know, just slightly a little bit, you know, I just wasn't in the same presence as what I normally am, even though I was aware of what was going on. But it was just, I just felt that, you know, the answers that were coming out it was just right at the time, and it made sense, kind of thing. So, yeah. And then, you know, there were other times too later on in the reading where I just went into like, it was almost like watching a screen, like watching like not really a video, but was like watching a screen, and these images were like coming, and I was just like, where the hang, you know, like, at the time I was describing what was happening, and we were talking about genetic sort of things at the time, and I couldn't have even imagined any scenario like what I was actually getting a picture of, and we talked about it later on, and I was just like, I've never seen anything on TV like it. I've never seen anything, you know, in the flesh or heard of anything like that, and so, but that, you know, that vision or whatever that I had at the time was just like, I couldn't have even imagined where that came from. So it must have been coming from a source or something somewhere, and it was amazing. Like it was, you know, and it explained a lot for the question that I had at the time.
Do you ever feel any spirit guides in the room with you, or entities that might be there?
Only positive at this point, but you do feel energy shifts. I can sense when there is. I have had spirits come through for that person to pass a message through, but it will still come through the person. So if I might ask, do you have a message? And the person will answer, but it's that other spirit coming through for them, and it's, you know, family or it's someone close to them generally. So But you do feel an energy presence or presences, but I can only say they are incredibly loving and kind and compassionate and beautiful, and even I can get emotional with that energy in the room as well. It's very, very loving, and the subconscious or the high, let's talk about it as a high self, because I think that's a better term, is so compassionate and kind that even if it can be firm, like it can be firm and direct, telling its own self off, but it's in a really loving and kind. There is no negative, there's no put down, there's no derogatory. Anything you've ever done in your life is never a negative or a derogatory thing. It's always you did your best and this was the situation. So even yourself is telling yourself all these beautiful, wonderful, uplifting, joyful things. So, if the emotion comes through, it's generally because you're tapping into something extraordinary that many of us don't get the opportunity to tap into that in our daily life anyway. So sometimes the room can be quite full of a lot of emotion and loving energy. So it's very special. It's really special. It's a little bit mind-blowing, I know. It's it actually really is extraordinary, and it's very magical, and I feel very privileged to do this kind of work because for me it is very sacred, and I don't take this work for granted. I feel like I've been given a gift to help others in this really special, unique way that I haven't experienced. And I mean, I've been a counsellor for 25 years, and I do theta healing work, which is another area that I do as well. If I have a chance, I'll go into that a little bit, because that's me doing the work with people, myself doing that. So if somebody doesn't really want to do QHHT, but they're across the other side of the world, then I can do the theta healing to them. So and I do all that work, but I'm channeling it through. So it's a gift. That's all I can say. I feel really blessed to help in this way, because you get the opportunity to do it for yourself, and I get to just guide you along instead of someone else doing it for you. So it's a really nice opportunity for people, I think, to experience.
I think it's important for people to be able to have the ability to heal themselves,
Yes,
to try and work, rather than putting it out for somebody else to try and do the healing for us, kind of thing. And I think that's where the medical thing is like so much like we're giving all of our power to doctors or specialists or whatever, to try and fix us, whereas like if we can tap into ways to try and heal ourselves,
it's very important.
I think that's, and I guess that's why like the whole shamanistic side of things, trying to find methods and things so that we're actually doing the work ourselves rather than handing it over to somebody else.
100%. I mean, it's empowering, and I think that's why I tend to move more towards the QHHT than the theta, as I said, unless someone's over the other side of the world and they need my help. But it allows that person with not just being on their own, but with someone who's with them, to experience that sense of empowerment of being able to work on themselves and see themselves. And it's really, I mean, we all have the ability. That's the beautiful. We all have the ability. If you can visualize and you can keep your mind calm and quiet for a while, then you can really do magic. But you can do magic, and if this is the way that you do it, then at least you're not on your own.
I think,
and it takes courage. Sorry, Diane. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, so after you've done a session, like Caro's done, what is the work that we need to do with our healing?
Oh, so you just listen to your recording about 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
You get the messages. So what will happen is the first time you listen, you'll be sort of surprised as to what you've experienced, and you probably won't take in as much information as you need to. But the second time usually is the best, because you're then actually hearing the information that's necessary for you, and your subconscious is still active, and it's taking in more information and then sending the healing through your body. So it continues for as long as it needs to. And so sometimes I say to people, don't forget to listen to your recording if they're in a bit of a rough patch, and then they'll go, oh yeah, I remember now. So that's why it's like gold, these recordings, because it's got all your information for you to access any time. And yes, some people will have direction. You know, they might even have dietary, like this is really crazy, but you can get dietary information, what's best for you to eat, and it will tell you, your subconscious or high self will tell you. It can come through in very strange ways. So for instance, some person, they said eat a lot of red, which means red vegetables, red fruits, red whatever, because that's going to be whatever is necessary for that person's body to function better. So you can ask anything.
I think one of the encouraging things about what you're saying is, so in the 17 years that I've been kind of on this journey with my health, the inspirational books that I've read of healing have all been spontaneous, but all of those people have gone within and they've done the reflective work, and it's been hard, and that's been part of what my approach is.
Yeah.
But having the support to do that, because it's hard work doing that, and you're kind of feeling in the dark a little bit, because it's like you said before, it's about trusting those intuitive feelings and messages and energy changes, that's actually appropriate. And I remember Ngola talking about, so after he'd done surgery, had his leg amputated, the cancer had come back in his chest, he then declined chemo and radiation because he'd gone through all of that and it hadn't actually resolved anything for him. So he went on the meditation tangent, nutritional tangent, and he went to see psychic healers and all sorts. And it wasn't until he went to see Sai Baba.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually he was invited up in front of thousands of people to actually ask Sai Baba a question, which he did. And Sai Baba's answer to him was, you are already healed, you need to trust that. And it was that was the turning point for him, him realising there was something in him resisting having faith in that. And here he is now, retired from an incredible life of helping others. And from being at death's door at 25, he's now probably early 70s.
Wow.
That's always, I've always held that, but it's about how do you access that, because it's hard work, because we're so used to external advice and external, trusting in experts and all the rest of it. That's the hard bit for us as human beings, for many of us anyway.
So Karen and I went to one of, some of you know, Hayden Crawford. He's, what's it called, a Dreamtime Academy, and I'm going next week to another one of his retreats, and he does the colour mirrors work. And we were both there experiencing, and you go and you choose these colours, and you go up and you think you're going to pick the green one, and you actually pick the yellow one, and you come back, and the message of that colour is actually, tells you so much. And I've used that, and that's got me through. So it's a similar thing, I think, because it's the subconscious that's doing it, and part of the bottle, it relates to the subconscious and part to the conscious, but I can't remember which colour's which, and I've found that, I was just sort of thinking to myself then, that's just been like, and so I've learned trust, because you can just, why did I choose that? Colours mean nothing to me, so it's his, I think the key is
trust and belief. So you've got to trust the process, surrender first, because I think we have to surrender because that's what causes the resistance. When we're in tension, then we're resisting. That's really all it is. So when we surrender to the experience, whether that's colour experience or whether it's tapping into our high self or whatever it is in the hypnosis, is surrendering, then trusting. And trusting what you that's why I say is trust what you see, hear, smell, taste. What the message comes through is always correct. It's always correct. It's just when the conscious mind interferes and tries to go, well, hang on a minute, no, I must be making that up. That's usually the first thing. I must be making this up. So that's the one that we want to boot out the door and say, well, that's okay. I'm just going to have this experience. And then when you allow yourself to have that experience, then you can progress. So if I want to just segue into the theta healing, so the theta healing is about you accessing your own theta state, which is where the meditation comes in. And through that, you can then, go into your body and you can ask your body for the messages, or you can ask your body what it needs to tell you. So that's actually something that I do a weekender course on, because it's step by step on how to do that. And I have done that for myself over 20 years, but I did do a self-healing on my body because I wanted to experiment without any outside influence. I was using myself as a guinea pig. So I used myself as a guinea pig to see if this is the real deal. So I did that for myself. And I learnt a lot along the way. Even though I knew a lot, I learnt more because I was, it was like I was being instructed, if I can say it that way. It's like I was in a state where I was being instructed by God or by Source or by Universe on how to do the healing and the steps to take to complete it for myself. So the visualization was really important, the meditation was really important because I needed to access the theta state. And then I allowed the trust of this process and the healing. So every day it would be, I'm healed, not I'm going to heal, it's I'm already healed, because that is the most powerful statement you can tell yourself, is I am healed. And also the way you speak to your body and how you see it is incredibly important as well. So even if it's broken or it's damaged or it's not functioning the way you want it to, you never put it down, you always praise it and uplift it. So even if it's the cancer, you thank the cancer for showing you this experience that you didn't know you could have, but you want to learn from it. So we are learning an experience from the cancer. What's the message? Generally the messages will be anger. There's some suppressed anger, some suppressed things that have been hidden in there that need to be attended to. So when we address that, then we can go into where is it that I'm carrying this anger? Where does it come from in my life? What do I need to heal? So then this, again, we're working on a different level, but we can work with the body, accessing the body by accessing the theta state. So that's a really powerful, powerful, powerful tool that you can all take away. And I'm happy to, if we've got 5 or 10 minutes to do a little experiment on yourselves, just to see,
Yep, we'd love
you know, want to do that?
Yep.
Because it's really beautiful and it's very simple. So obviously the layers to work through are, you know, it's good to know. So that's why it ended up being a weekend course, because by the time you meet all the requirements to heal the whole system, and we're talking mind, body, spirit, emotion, past, present, everything. So you're doing a full package heal on your whole self. But this is a nice little intro on how to do it yourself today. So if you want to close your eyes, and if you don't want to, that's fine. You can just listen to me. Okay, so generally we like to get into a quiet state. So however you do this, I actually really enjoy doing meditation in bed, and I generally do it early in the morning before I wake up, because I'm already in a quiet state and accessing the theta. So you're already there. Okay, so the first thing I do is we go into the heart space. So we check into our heart space. So just visualize dropping into your heart space. And when we're in the heart space, then we imagine our heart beginning to glow, or you see a light starting to shine from within this heart space. And whatever the colour is for you, that's okay. Just take notice of that colour. And we let that light then fill our chest cavity and let that expand throughout the body. So just visualize that light spreading throughout your body. And you see now we've activated the heart center. And our body's awake. Now from here, I would like you to travel to the area that needs attention in your body. So take your focus and attention to that area. Some people can see it from the inside, some people want to look at it from the outside of their body, as if they're viewing a two-dimensional picture. And when we access that part of our body that needs our attention, what we're going to do is give it some praise. We're going to thank that part of our body and tell it how wonderful it is and how appreciative we are of that part of our body. And we also want to let it know that we are there for it. So it's like we're the mother to the child. So that part of your body that needs your attention is like the child that needs your attention. And you are now going to be like the nurturing, loving mother. And you're going to reassure that space or that place or that area how much love you have for it. And you can tell it how committed you are to its well-being. People, maybe they want to apologise or ask for forgiveness because they hadn't paid attention enough to that area, or maybe they neglected that area. So this is a really nice opportunity to also express that, because that can also be an emotional release, but also a physical release for your body. To do that's okay. Don't push yourself. Just do the love part if that's all you can do. While you're doing the forgiveness, you hadn't paid it attention, but you're there for it now. You just to this, your attention and focus. You can ask it what the message is. What's the message it's trying to tell you? Remember, this is the first thing that comes to you. What's is trying to tell you? It's the correct thing. Some insight for you, or maybe you needed to hear, or you needed to remind yourself of. Send it a lot of love. You can hug it, you can sprinkle it with light or fairy dust, whatever works for you. You just do that, because that's your wellness into this part of your body. Whatever you want. To that part of your body that you are now committed to it, and you are there for it always. Amazing things, and you are off that attention, you can come back to the heart space. Sorry if I'm rushing people, just take your time. You just come back to your heart space when you're ready. And then you can start to come back to the awareness of your body and the room. Gently. And you can come back to the room when you're ready. Just feel the experience of a theta healing on yourself. Part of it. So how did everyone feel doing that?
I was gone.
Mm-hmm. Resistance for people doing that, or did it seem to just flow gently and easily? Like, how was that?
Well, I
How
know
did your
for
busy
me, I
mind
struggle
lady
with
go?
language
Mhm.
because I don't visualise. So when you use
Okay.
just purely visualising
Yes.
language,
Yeah.
I used to really resist that
Mhm.
because I'm a feeling person, so I
Mhm.
can feel changes.
Mhm.
But because I'm aware of that, I can kind of work past
Okay.
that. But yeah.
So then how do you get into a meditative state? You don't visualise anything, you
No.
just...
You go into
I
the
feel.
total quiet
Yeah.
and no
And I
sensation.
so I
Yeah.
look for sensations
Yeah.
in my body,
Mhm.
and that's what I notice
Mhm.
tension and stuff.
Mhm.
Because in Gawler, in the early days, I used to really resist meditation because I never had the same experiences that everybody talked about, which was visualisation.
Yes.
And then I realised we're not all the same. We
Mhm.
don't all visualise. Some of us use language, some of us use feeling. And once I understood that, then it actually wasn't a problem.
Mhm. So were you able to still receive the message from your body?
Yeah, so I've done theta training.
Okay, so you would
Yeah.
know then.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
As soon as you said go into your heart space,
Mhm.
spread that light, it was just a complete shift for me.
Mhm.
So it was good.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
I was fine. I mean, I add that in because I know that connecting to the heart space first is always like the gateway to everything else. Not everybody does that, but I always find that drop there first, and then the rest opens. It's a much easier. It's connecting. That's really what you're doing, is connecting to yourself straight away.
Is there much of a difference between like visualisation and imagining?
It's the same.
Same thing?
Same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So if you can imagine, so children are really good at this because they go into imagination spaces really, really quickly. That is the subconscious. That's the colour. That's the vibrancy. That's their thing. So children can do that very easily, but because as we get older we shut that part down and we don't get as creative and we're not using colour as much and we're more in the left side of our brain.
Or
So
play.
Correct. Any creative thing keeps us in the right, but usually what happens is we suppress that and we go into the left because, we want to be logical, we want to be, problem solving, we want
Line
this
up.
tasks, you know what I mean? So we get caught in that. And so accessing another normal state needs work and attention. So it's not that we don't have it, it's just that we forget it. So, and if yours is about feeling, do you do art and creative? So then you're accessing that anyway, in whatever way that is.
And
The
can I
right
just
side.
ask how you went? Because males are definitely...
Yes, there's
Yeah.
definitely a difference.
To be honest, I had a lot of difficulty in hearing what you were saying.
Okay,
I got the
okay.
gist
Yeah,
because I'm wearing hearing aids,
okay, yeah.
and they knew.
Mhm,
I got the gist of what
Mhm.
you're doing.
mhm.
but no, it was blank.
Okay, yeah. And that men can find that a little more challenging to drop
Yeah.
into.
Mm.
So if I've got them coming for hypnosis, some will go with a little bit more effort. Others will be very, very resistant. And I am learning that I think it is a male thing. And it's not negative, it's just that perhaps you don't access the other side as much because you're doing more focused on physical, manual, operational things. So it's just training, and that's why with the second visit generally you go straight into the hypnosis because you're aware. And I usually get you to do some meditation training or do some art or something to get you into the other side. Yeah, so that's okay.
What I kind of, you use the word surrender and faith and trust. And when you think about the ancient texts, doesn't matter which faith you look at, those are the key messages that are actually often in those ancient texts about faith and surrender and trust, and I just find it really fascinating that it's all kind of filtering through to what we're doing today.
It's fantastic.
Can a person have to be in a mood doing? I mean, maybe if somebody got out the bed the wrong side and then come to you, the whole mindset is, I'm at this lot.
Not everybody's.
So you've already, the shutters are down already.
I find that if people come in, this is the one thing that I find is the hardest to get past. When they say, I can't go under, you won't get me under, you'll never get me under, I've never been able to go under. So you've literally conditioned yourself before you even got to me that's the shutter. So the shutter's already down before, and I hear that language and I go, well, okay, I've got my work cut out for me today. But because the interview part is like the relaxation part, and we're talking and we're getting to know, I'm getting to know you, you're opening up. So sometimes that really helps to ease people into, by the time you get into the hypnosis, you're already so relaxed and feeling very casual and jovial, and we have lightness. It's not all heavy and dense, it's quite a light experience. So by the time you get to the hypnosis, a lot of the time that angst has already dropped away. So that's why that part is very important to leading into the hypnosis part. But yes, if it is still a resistance, then I work really hard to shift it, and if it's still there, then we will discuss whether to come, if you want to come out or if you want to continue, and that's just, we flow with the day. So,
Can I just say that
yes.
I approach this slightly differently when you're saying about a higher being. I put my trust, faith in God.
Yes.
And by prayer, I can get into that state.
Perfect.
And He answers me and tells me what
That's it. Perfect.
every day.
There you go.
So
You're doing it.
I put my trust totally in God.
Yeah,
I don't go and
100%.
see a doctor. I don't take pills. I don't do anything.
Yeah.
He just shows me the way to go.
That's your key, darling. That is your key.
So the bossy brain, you haven't really
You haven't got a bossy
brain,
brain.
have you?
Yeah.
I'm totally controlled
Oh,
by
yeah.
what He tells me to do. Totally.